Hello, lab experts. Once again, welcome to the Diagnostics podcast. In today's episode, we're going to go into a topic that some of you have asked for in the past. We're going to learn a bit more about biomedical engineering and how it might be possible for you to get into biomedical engineering if that's a field that you are really interested in. In order to be able to navigate that topic, we have an expert in the field, Joseph Agbola, who is going to talk to us about the field and how he got into it, and potentially help enlighten you into how you could also get into the field. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. And how are you doing too?
I'm really, really good. It's really nice to have you here today. I think you're the first biomedical engineer we have on the podcast. So it will be nice to really have your
Wow.
perspective.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, like you said, I'm Joseph Agbola, and I'm a graduate of mechanical engineering from a university here in Nigeria, and I have my master's degree in biomedical engineering. And afterwards, I have worked in about two hospitals. But before then, I actually went into IT support, internet networking, where I worked as an IT support engineer in one of the internet service providers here in Nigeria. Also, after that, I also worked as a Microsoft 365 support person with Tech Experts Nigeria. I mean, what we used to do then was to provide support to Microsoft's customers. And actually, in the course of that, I actually wanted to go for biomedical. I wanted to practice biomedical engineering, but I couldn't lay hands on any because most of these organizations wanted someone with experience, at least a minimum of a year experience. And as I then, all I had was just a few months internship I had while doing the master's program.
Yeah.
But lucky for me, while applying, I got a hospital where I was interviewed. I was given the opportunity to be interviewed, and I was able to convince them that I could function well as a clinical engineer. And I was privileged to get the offer. That was Marigold Hospital here in Lagos State. And after some time, unfortunately, I didn't stay too long. Unfortunately, I didn't stay too long in the hospital, about 5 months. I stayed about 5 to 6 months in the hospital, after which I got a better offer in a bigger hospital, also here in Lagos State, which I still function as a clinical engineer.
So apparently you're very interested in technology, mechanical, electrical, IT. Like, does knowing all of that help you in the current field that you are in right now in biomedical engineering? Like having knowledge in all of these?
Yeah, so the good thing about my biomedical engineering is, it brings together so many fields. So eventually I found myself applying almost all of this field I've taught. I found myself applying all of the skills I've gotten so far in biomedical engineering, like talking about mechanical engineering, talking about IT, internet networking, talking about IT support, the customer service part, communication, and all that. So
Yeah.
eventually, it's actually useful in the biomedical engineering.
Now, some who watch this at this point may start getting scared, may start asking themselves, do they need to go into mechanical engineering and learn that and learn more a bit about technology? So tell us, do you need all that, or is there or can you go directly into the field? I know it helps, but do you need to have as wide an amount of experience when you're starting, or you can sort of build up bit by bit?
Okay, actually, you don't have it's not a must you go through being a mechanical engineer or being an IT person before going into biomedical engineering. The biomedical engineering is such a broad field that accommodates you, notwithstanding the background you're coming from. It gives you a room to function. It's a field that encompasses engineering, biology, medicine, IT, and all that. So no matter the field you're coming from, you can only find a channel, a part of biomedical engineering to focus on. We have different branches of biomedical engineering. We have the clinical engineering, we have the tissue engineering, we have biomaterials, we have bioinformatics. We have so many aspects of biomedical engineering. So you coming into the field, you can always find where you fit in afterwards. However, we all have to start from the basics, and there's this part of it that is so important. It's actually an engineering field, even though it brings in biology and medicine. So there's no way you would actually need the engineering skills and knowledge, because basically biomedical engineering is about the identification and evaluation of medical, as in the problems in medical world, and using the knowledge or principles of engineering in the engineering world to solve the problems.
Yeah.
That's basically what biomedical engineering is all about. For example, there's a patient with heart issues, and we want to solve a problem to that. So a biomedical engineer comes with the engineering skills and engineering knowledge, principles, and think about the heart. So he now sees it more than how the medical doctor, more than the biological explanation of the heart. Then he gets to see it as a pump. He tends to see it as gears working together, pumps working together, pumping flow, gets to measure the flow and all that. So with that, the biomedical engineer will be able to come up with a solution to the heart problem. So I wouldn't know if I've gone too far. I mean,
No, it's good. I mean, it allows us to get an overview and a large perspective of the field and what can actually be done in the field. And you, in your case, like on a day-to-day basis, what does your work look like? What did you decide to focus on out of all this array?
Okay, so I currently focus on clinical engineering, and clinical engineering has to do with the use of technology to improve the healthcare system, technology to improve the healthcare system. So basically, I focus on the medical equipment. I help with the fixing, maintaining, and servicing of the medical equipment. So in the hospital environment, whatsoever issues they have with the medical equipment, I'm actually the first contact person. I make suggestions on the kind of medical equipment that best fit situations. Maybe they want to get a microscope, and after telling me the purpose of the microscope, I make suggestions on the brands or the specification of the best microscope that fits into the purpose they want to use it for.
Yeah.
So that's part of my role. I also manage the oxygen station in hospitals, and also train clinical staff on the use of this medical equipment.
So you came at it from the engineering background. Now, do you have any idea for someone, let's say, so many of those who watch this are going to be probably from a biological background, so wet biology, maybe more related to biological science or research biology. Now, someone who is in that area who may want to get into biomedical engineering, what paths do they have at their disposal? What directions could they go in?
Okay. Like I said earlier, biomedical engineering is such a broad field that accommodates you wherever, despite the environment you're coming from, notwithstanding any environment you're coming from. Someone coming from the biomedical science environment, coming into clinical engineering might be a totally different, because it appears I have to fix medical equipment and all that. That may be may look kind of totally different from your background. However, we have aspects of biomedical engineering such as tissue engineering, we have genetics engineering, we have biomaterials. So these fields have a lot to do with where you're coming from, being a biomedical scientist. You've dealt with cells, you understand the organs, you understand tissues and all that. So you can easily switch into the biomedical engineering field if you're going into that line.
Yeah, so you can leverage some of your past experience and then use that in order to be able to get into those fields which require skills that are maybe some extra, but lots of the skills that you are going to be using are potentially skills that you've also learned some of and used already in the past.
Definitely. However, you will still have to get some knowledge or experience in the engineering field. So when it comes to getting, okay, talking about biomedical engineering and the biomedical sciences now, talking about their researches and all that. Actually, there are researches in biomedical engineering that would require the expertise of a biomedical scientist. So that's why there are occasions where you see professors in the universities looking for researchers, biomedical engineering professors looking for researchers such as biomedical scientists to function in their laboratories. So their expertise are actually needed also in the biomedical engineering field. However, for someone that wants to totally switch into biomedical engineering, let's assume someone who did biomedical science as an undergraduate and wants to go into biomedical engineering for master's degree, such a person would actually need to, in a place like Nigeria, I mean, the University of Ibadan, where I did my master's, it is allowed. We can always come from biomedical science to study biomedical engineering. However, you may be asked to go back to take some engineering courses, which they took as an undergraduate before you can proceed as a biomedical engineer.
All right, I see. There's also a set of people. So let me see. I remember there was one interview. I was speaking with someone who told me that in Nigeria specifically, I don't know about other countries, but in Nigeria, there are programs or there are companies where they can, so not necessarily in the clinical, not necessarily in the hospital setting, but there are private companies that have specific programs where they can take in people and then teach them specifically how to deal with maintenance problems with the equipment that they manufacture within their own company. Do you know of any programs of that nature?
Okay. What I know is, yeah, I know of a program that was organized by the United Nations, UNAID, and it was here in Lagos. And their center is actually in Lagos University Teaching Hospital, where they organized training for those who are interested in the repairs and maintenance of medical equipment. I know of that program. And also there was a time, okay, I am also aware of GE, General Electrics. General Electrics barely organized program for outsiders. However, for if you're lucky to be employed by General Electrics, they will actually train you and put you through their on how to fix, I mean, repair and maintain this medical equipment. Aside that, occasionally individuals also organize trainings, which is quite rare, but occasionally individuals organize training. I know of a man in Ibadan here in Nigeria. He specializes in dialysis equipment, and I remember there was a time of course, he trained people also, but of course, it's comes at a cost.
Yeah, of course. So I didn't know that. So there are actually, yeah, I guess that does make sense, but it hadn't registered. So there are actually people that specialize in specific equipments that they just deal with that particular equipment and with maintenance and repair of those particular equipments.
Definitely, biomedical engineering being a broad field in itself, clinical engineering alone is also a very broad field. Why you have quite a number of medical equipment, with different working principles, with different functions, diagnostic equipment. Talking about dialysis equipment, you cannot expect. Of course, you have. Okay, let's assume an imaging equipment just like the CT machine or the X-ray machine, and talking about the dialysis machine. These are totally different equipment, different functions, and all that. So, in order to be a professional, to specialize, that's where the place of specializing comes in. So some people decide to specialize in the imaging equipment, talking about the X-ray, the CT machine, the ultrasound, and the likes. While some people focus on the dialysis equipment, some people focus on the laboratory equipment, talking about the hematology analyzer, chemistry analyzer, and the likes. So in clinical engineering, there's a place of specializing on an equipment. Although it's expected that you kind of know the general principles, these equipment because, as medical equipment, they all have basics of functionality.
Mm-hmm.
So it's expected that you have a basic knowledge of how this medical equipment work.
So based on what you've been telling me, I've been grabbing like some things here and there. So from what I'm understanding, let's say someone just did a bachelor in medical laboratory science and would like to also go and continue and get an extra degree in biomedical engineering. They probably are going to need some engineering, some electronics, probably some mathematics, some physics. Is there anything else that would be really important in the field?
Okay, like I said, yeah, like just as you said, they will actually need all of that. They'll need the basic knowledge of engineering, physics, mathematics, IT. There's information technology. You actually need that because in the field, okay, let me first talk about the engineering part, where you get to talk about the electrical safety of this medical equipment. These are things of course, you were never taught as a biomedical scientist, but you actually need to learn measuring, calibrating this equipment also, electrical safety, how to maintain and repair the equipment. Then talking about the IT, clinical engineering, it's not also just about fixing and repairing the medical equipment. You make reports, you make presentations, you make reports, and you do inventory of medical equipment. You organize and implement preventive maintenance of medical equipment. So these are all skills that will be learned as a biomedical, as a clinical engineer.
And within the field, what would you say is what are the employment outlooks like? What does it look like? So is there a large amount of opportunity, a smaller amount of opportunity? Like to you, what do the options out there look like?
At the moment, we actually there's so many opportunities as for clinical engineers, especially not just in Nigeria, not just in Africa, globally. Globally, I know of someone who just in about 3 weeks ago got a job in the UK right from Nigeria, a biomedical engineer. He has less than about 3 years work experience. So it's actually a job that gives you opportunity to the field in itself is not yet saturated in this part of the world. It's an upcoming field. This gives you an opportunity to get jobs here and there. Talking about the universities, you have opportunities to lecture, you have opportunities to work as clinical engineer in the hospitals. And we have so many upcoming, I can't tell about other, African countries, but here in Nigeria, we have so many upcoming private hospitals, world standard hospitals, and are doing fine and are also employing clinical engineers.
Yeah.
The clinical medical equipments are quite expensive. People are they're actually careful getting people to manage this equipment because, of course, you wouldn't want to have spent so much and just manage your equipment anyhow. So this gives the clinical engineer the chance to function well. You get paid well for managing so-called expensive medical equipment. So that's so-called. They're actually expensive.
Yeah, expensive. I mean, you don't want someone to come and play with a 20,000 euro equipment and then just touch the wrong resistor or capacitor somewhere and mess everything up. And then after you have to start figuring out where is the problem from, and it's hours and hours. And so, yeah, people want to protect their investment.
Yeah, that is it. And being that having to troubleshoot machines can be can be demanding, especially the big, the big equipment now. Having to find the trouble, where the issue is. Okay, I think I didn't talk anything. I didn't mention troubleshooting. Just permit me to talk a little bit about troubleshooting. In clinical engineering, troubleshooting is one of the major things we do. Fault finding, because when there are issues with medical equipment, most times we get to replace parts. most times. So, but where the work comes in is you being able to find the actual problem, the actual part with the issue. So that's where troubleshooting comes in. So you get to search this, try this, test this. So that can actually take a long while, and that's where the work is for biomedical engineers at times.
I think I get that can be complex in some cases. When it comes to the work, like you said, you can work in a clinical setting, but you said also that you can work in the private setting. Could you work like for yourself, let's say as a consultant? Is that easy to do, or is it usually better to work within a larger organization?
Okay, actually, that depends on the person and the environment. Back then there was this question they used to ask in interviews. Do you prefer to be a rat or you prefer to be an elephant head?
Mm-hmm.
The head of an elephant, or you prefer
Yeah,
to be a rat. So
yeah,
it actually depends on individuals, and you can be either. Actually, you can be either. You can choose to be a consultant on your own. However, being a consultant is not something because I just graduated as a clinical engineer, I want to be a consultant. You need to get some experience. It's after a
mm-hmm.
while you can choose to be a when you're recognized, when you can be trusted, and you have enough confidence on your own. You've learned beyond just fixing and repairing medical equipment. You
Mm-hmm.
understand how to manage both the machines, how to manage the people, and you understand the market in itself. So that's when you can actually come out to say, okay, yes, I want to be a consultant in this line. Also, you can choose to be a project engineer or project manager, because when hospitals come on, I mean, new hospitals and all that, they get to need project engineers who understand medical equipment, who understand how they can be arranged, managed, purpose the equipment they want to buy to fit into the purpose of their hospital setting and all that. So of course, a biomedical engineer can also function as a project manager, help them with the project, implement the project.
Yeah,
That's also a part of it. And a clinical engineer can also be, you can also set up your medical equipment. I mean, fixing business, probably like a support business where you can help fix medical equipment. So if there are issues with medical equipment in hospitals or laboratories and all that, they can always reach out to you to help them fix the equipment while you make your
yeah.
money through that also.
Yeah. And now the other question I had is a kind of two-part question. It's concerning the field. Why is it that it's a field we don't hear a lot about? Because I'm pretty sure there are lots of students out there that don't necessarily know it's something that they can go into. It's not necessarily something that they think about. And also, in your case, how did you find the field? What made you interested in the field?
Actually, in a place like Nigeria, it's still quite a new field. Like I think I'm not sure it's up to a decade here in Nigeria.
Okay.
Let's say maybe just a decade or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe the first set around 2010 or thereabout.
Oh,
So
really?
it's quite a new field in Nigeria. Yeah,
Oh,
it's quite a new field in Nigeria because in my case, I happen to be the first set of biomedical engineering in the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. I believe you must have heard about the
yeah.
university. So I happen to be one of the first sets, which was in that was 2017, I guess. Yeah, 2017.
Wow.
So that was when we started. However, there were universities that actually started that about maybe 6 or 5 years before then in Nigeria. So I guess that is why most people haven't really known about the field here in the country, because it started not too long. When I heard about the field, I was at first skeptical about it. I did not know anything. I almost did not know anything about it. I was forced to go and read about it because after my degree, here in Nigeria, we do what we call the NYSC, that's
Yeah.
National Youth Service Corps, where we serve for like a year. I wanted to do master's degree actually. So I was wondering, should I proceed and do mechanical engineering? And I actually felt I wanted something more. I was like mechanical engineering. And then I actually had passion for automobile engineering. So,
Okay.
but I wanted something more. When I wanted to apply to the University of Ibadan, there was no automobile option for the for mechanical engineering. So I didn't want to go to other options. Then I saw the biomedical engineering. Pioneering said if we're going to apply. So I was forced to read about it. I did some research about it. I was like, oh, this is going to be a cool field, like bringing together engineering, biology, medicine, bringing
Yeah.
everything together, and you'll be able to function in the health sector. And as I then, my thought was like, oh, the health sector is a kind of sector that always need people, and so I thought about a lot of things, and I was like, oh, I think this would be a cool place to study. I didn't have full knowledge of the whole thing. I didn't have a
Yeah.
full picture of the whole thing. I just took the action and followed through the line, and I'm happy eventually it paid off.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it happens. You don't know exactly, but you end up finding something that you really love to do, and that other people, as a result of you being in it, are also able to experience some good things in their lives from that. So it's really nice that you're able to find that. Is there anything that you would like to add? Anything else that you think we haven't yet spoken about that you'd like to discuss?
Okay. I think I've mentioned it. Clinical engineering is a broad field on its own, and it gives you room to function in so many places. It gives you room to function in the hospital as a clinical person. I mean, support. Some places call it support engineer. Like you get to be there, and if there's any issue with medical equipment, any medical equipment, you're the first contact person. You are not expected to be 100% good in all of this equipment.
Yeah.
We understand that you're limited. You cannot know all of the equipment. That's the truth. However, you should have some which you specialize in. So, as a clinical engineer in the hospital setting, that is what you will be doing. So, you don't have to know it all, just know a little and keep growing. And over time, you get to know more. If there are issues that are beyond what you can do, it is expected that you communicate with vendors who can assist you to fix some of these issues. It is
Yeah.
actually the way it operates in all of the hospitals. In fact, some of the equipment are actually on contract with these vendors.
Okay.
However, as a clinical engineer, you'll be the one to monitor these vendors. You'll be the one to communicate with them when it's time for the maintenance of this equipment, or when there's issues with this equipment, you'll be the one to communicate with them. Also, as a clinical engineer, you have the opportunity to function as a salesperson. Yeah, you can actually function as a sales engineer. You understand the working principles of this machine. You can reach out to people, educate them on how the equipment can function. I mean, can be helpful to them and get to sell this equipment. That's another area which you can function. And like I said earlier, also, you can also stand on your own. You can also own your business, own a workshop where medical equipment are fixed, and with that, you can also be fine.
Yeah.
And in addition, you can, like you said, you can be a consultant. You can be called upon to educate clinical staff on medical equipment or how they function, train them here and there. So it's actually a good field to venture into, and it's actually not so hard for biomedical scientists to venture into this field, like I said,
Yeah.
because they already have the basic knowledge of biology, tissue, and all that, all the
Yeah.
basic knowledge. What is now needed is the engineering part. So if anyone that wants to go to that should just prepare his mind that, okay, I'm going to learn engineering, and
Mhm.
adding engineering to the things I've known before. That's going to be a plus. So it's quite interesting.
All right, Joseph, thanks a
Yeah.
lot. I think this was a very enlightening discussion. I'm pretty sure lots of people who are in the sector who are going to watch this are going to learn a lot. Lots of questions are going to be answered. I'm sure lots of questions are going to be created also in people's minds. Assuming some people have questions that they ask us, hopefully we can have another discussion where we can talk in some more detail if you have the time. Now, in case people want to reach out directly to you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Okay, I think the best way would be through my LinkedIn page. Yeah,
Okay.
you can always reach out to me through my LinkedIn page. That's Joseph Agbola.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
so that,
put that in the show notes in the description so that people can also get in contact with you if they need your help for one thing or the other. Once again, thanks a lot for taking the time to sit with us today and to talk to us about your field and why is it you like it, how is it you got into the field, and also how some of us who are in slightly different areas could, if we want to branch into medical engineering and also help out, because like you said, it's a field that is still growing, and so I'm sure you also need some help because you can't do all the work by yourself, but lots of people need your help every day, everywhere. So hopefully more people get in there to be able to help and to be able to help the field grow. Thanks a lot for taking the time to talk to us here today, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon to talk more medical engineering.
yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, it's quite a nice time with you. And thank you.
Thank you, and see you next time.
Yeah, bye-bye.